Got another Friday Q&A for you guys. Today we dive into many different topics. We talk about whether or not I would start another product line, or if I would even start a product line, or what other business we would get into. We talk about reverse dieting. We talk about G-Flux and how you could potentially recomp using this G-Flux theory of eat more, move more. We talk about not developing bad relationships with food. We talk about unsupportive spouses when you are dieting and they are not with the program. We talk about a lot. Again, specifically, mostly dieting related, a little bit of training stuff in there, and some random personality stuff. But really informative podcast I got for you today. Couple quick announcements. Make sure you do me a huge favor and, of course, subscribe to the channel if you like this podcast. Hit the little red alert button to make sure you get notified every time we drop an episode. And go check out the Tailored Life Podcast Clips channel so you can get bite-sized nuggets of information that we break down from every single podcast. And before you listen to this week's show, I do want to encourage you to go check out the Tailored Trainer at tailoredtrainer.net. This is the completely revamped membership site that we put together that gives you access to daily training, expert advice, and it's less than $1 per day. Yes, it's $27 per month, which is just insane. You're not going to get this good of training program design for that cheap. I promise you that. So go check that out. Again, that's tailoredtrainer.net. And without any further ado, let's get into the episode.
Yeah.
Tailored Trainer. It's a wrap. It's done. I feel like we're talking about it a lot on the podcast, but that's because we want you in.
Yeah.
It's time to sign up, guys. I'm stoked, though. But I literally put the final touches on the final program today. It was like,
this airs like 2 or 3 weeks after it
I know.
launches.
But still, the point is there's a lot of work
Yeah.
going into this. I was actually going to post something about it this week. I was looking at these pictures that Pau took when he was here, and I had like the app pulled up on my computer. So it was like over the shoulder shot. But then there was a shot of my face, like when I was on the computer, and I just had bags under my eyes. I just looked exhausted. And it was during, we were moving. I was trying to, again, work on this Tailored Trainer thing. But it was like, damn. Part of me is like, dude, that's unhealthy. Like, get some fucking sleep. And then the other part of me was like,
Pal.
the Tailored Trainer, like, there was a lot of work that got put into it.
Yeah.
So that would make for a good post. Like, I look exhausted and unhealthy, but the reason is because I was putting shit together for this. But I'm stoked, man. I'm so excited, and that's why we keep talking about it. And I'm sore as fuck today from day one of power building, which was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I did conditioning yesterday, the add-on, and then Monday was upper body day. And for the last 3 months, I think it is, I've been training with Jason Brown, right?
Yep.
Purely strength. So everything is, besides some face pulls, everything is really low rep range. So it's all strength based, and I hit PRs, felt good, really strong. But then when the app was live, I was like, all right, dude, I got to pause for a little bit so I can get into this app and do the work that the people are going to be doing with us, And I went right into a hypertrophy program. So one, I'm sore as fuck because it's such a big change, but it actually worked out perfectly because in a classic periodization session, building a good amount of strength and then moving into a hypertrophy phase or vice versa is kind of like the perfect blend.
For sure.
Building a lot of strength. So like when I did my on Monday it was 9 reps. Next week it's 7 reps of bench press. I benched more than I've ever benched for 9 reps. It felt good. I didn't have a spotter because I was by myself, but and I was bumping 3-6 Mafia. That had something to do with it too. I know you heard that from the office.
But you benched more than you've ever benched at 9 reps and without a spotter?
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
What do you mean?
I mean, that's like maxing out, right?
In a way, but I've built so much strength over the last really year, but now that I'm returning to 9 reps, so I haven't done 9 reps on a bench press in so long. I haven't done more
That's a lot of reps.
Yeah, I haven't done more than 5 reps on a bench press in like 6 months because I've just been focusing on strength. But I've built so much strength that I hit 205 for 9 reps, and I've never hit 205 for 9 reps.
Damn.
But I didn't max out because I didn't have a spotter. So, pretty dope. And then CJ came in and did the same thing. When I talked to him yesterday, he was like, same exact thing. He's bigger than me, 235, I think, for 9. And he's never done that for 9. I was like, damn, this is going to be a really good hypertrophy block.
That's sick.
Of just like putting in work and just not really build. I mean, I guess I'm not dieting right now for a while, so I might put on some muscle. But yeah, I'm just sore as shit. And then I went to see Alicia right afterwards. And you get like sore after a massage. It's like the worst. I don't know how to ignore that. just because they're breaking down the tissue even more. It's like training hard, getting super sore from training, and then going right into a massage. Like, dude, I was so sore in like the middle of my back, and yeah, in a good way. It was like that soreness that like kind of made me happy, but it sucked at the same time.
For sure.
But yeah, the Taylor Trainer is live. It's ready. Join it. Get after it. We're going to keep mentioning it, so you might as well just get with it.
Yeah.
And if you have questions, hit me up. Cody@tailoredcoachingmethod.com. I'm here to answer any questions.
A lot of feedback already. People that are in it.
Yeah. Especially with the handful of people like that beta tested it before we went live with it.
Yeah.
A lot of really good feedback. And the video that you put together is sick just for the instructions.
Yeah.
But it's way doper than I was expecting it to be, I will say. I was like,
expectations were not very high then.
Well, I was like, man, you've been working on it for a while.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing to it? And then I look over and I'm like, oh, shit. That's way more clear and helpful than what I had in mind.
Yeah.
In my mind, I was like, slap the phone up and just leave it there and I'll just talk. But no, I'm stoked about it. There's really no announcements except that, so I think we're just going to keep mentioning it until something cool happens, and we got to talk about it.
Dope. I think it's worthy of keep talking about it.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, cool, guys. We got another Q&A this week. We're going to continue on. We got a lot of questions from the Facebook group and on Instagram that we will knock out. First question comes from Tammy Lou. It says, when a client who is macro counting and working out has an unsupportive spouse who rolls his or her eyes, comments that they are over the macro counting stuff, it can be a lonely process for your client. So what would you say to your client like that, and how do you support them as a coach? Well,
Tammy, I hope that this hypothetical client isn't actually you and your husband's not actually listening to this podcast. That was a very specific question.
Yeah.
But if it's about your client, then I don't think you have any worries. But okay. So how do you help a client who is dealing with somebody who has an unsupportive spouse, essentially? It's pretty hard because there's actually, and this is, don't quote me on the exact numbers or the exact data, but I have looked into this, and I don't know if it's actual research driven or if it's just like an environmental style study, like a survey. They ask a bunch of married couples and they see what the answers are. But essentially they did something where it's like if, I talked about this with the guys because one of the coaches was talking to me about a female he coaches and how their husband, like, it motivated him to change too. And now he's had a transformation with him too, Tristan. And now they both had transformation. That's great. But there's a lot of cases where one person has a transformation and the other one doesn't want to create change, and it actually develops resentment between the two. Because if somebody loses 20 pounds, gets really lean, whatever it may be, a few things happen. Number one, you have to acquire self-discipline to get there. Number two, you have to be self-motivated to get there. Number three, you have to have a glass half full mentality to do any of that, right? You're not going to be consistent. You're not going to be motivated. You're not going to get after it if you don't look at every situation with a little bit more of a positive standpoint or positive outlook, right? On top of that, you drop weight, you're more confident. You're more energetic. You want to do different things because now you have the capability to do different things.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be more outgoing. You want to go see stuff. Like, all the reasons why, like, you listening to this, if you haven't created change yet, you should go create change because it feels fucking good. But if you, person A, does all these things and then their spouse is still in the past, not confident, not energetic, doesn't want to do those same activities because they don't feel the same way, doesn't have as much motivation, doesn't have as much self-discipline, kind of looks at situations like the glass half empty, there's going to be resentment there. Totally. They're on two completely different pages. And this happens a lot. And in one of the, it's not a leading cause for divorce. I don't even know what the leading cause for divorce would be. But one of a very common cause for divorce from the survey that I read is this transformative process when one person transforms through physical fitness and one person does not. So it's tough. Yeah. It's a tough thing. And part of it is, I kind of go back and forth on advice because part of me talks to people about this stuff and I'm like, hey, don't pressure your significant other to do anything because it can cause issues, right? Yeah. If you're like, so I'm a coach, right? And so if me and Shannon are ever going through something and I think I have like a solution, I have to be careful with how I approach it.
For sure.
Because a lot of times I get into coach mode and I'm like trying to coach her through it. And the first response I get is, don't coach me.
Yeah.
You know, and I've actually talked to other coaches that are like, oh yeah, I get the same exact thing.
For sure.
And so I have to be careful about that, right? Because it's in the same sense, like I don't want to be coached, right? And this is even, I don't know what it is, but even with, like, Shannon is so good at being a mom that sometimes if I'm flustered or don't know how to be a dad for a moment because I don't know how to handle a situation with Blakely, she'll kind of coach me on it. And I get frustrated because I'm like, don't tell me how to parent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even though, like, I really need help figuring out how to do this right now. So you kind of have to walk on eggshells. You have to be careful. There's a fine line there. I think the best approach is having, like, some kind of, like, you probably heard us talk about it when Andre's your, like, marriage meeting, right? Where, like, once a week you sit down with your wife or your husband or your significant other and you just talk, right? Yeah. It's kind of like an open, there's nothing specific to talk about. It's not like, let's sit down and talk about the things we don't like about each other or what we need to fix. It's, let's just sit down and just open door talk. Talk about your life, talk about my life, talk about my week, talk about your week, what's going on. And when it's your turn to share, you share all the things that are going really well. And you don't push them to do it, but you're just like, honestly, I got really excited because I deadlifted 200 pounds. Like, I'm getting closer to twice my body weight, which just seems crazy, but I feel strong. I feel empowered. Like, I feel really good about that. I felt really energetic this week because I got good sleep. Like, it was helpful. You know what I mean? Just like a couple random things. Don't, like, lay out your whole list because then they're like, okay, I know what you're trying to do here.
Yeah.
But drop a couple things that feel really good and just see if that rubs off on that person. Because I think the best way to have loved ones create change is to lead by example. And when they see the changes happening to you and how they're positively affecting you, they might just want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're telling them they need to change, that's a little bit different, you know.
Low key degrading.
100%.
Yeah.
And you also have to, like, work on, like, give or take, right? So with me and Shannon, she never has and probably will never have any desire to track macros.
Mm-hmm.
She really doesn't need to.
Yeah.
And I like tracking macros and measuring my food, right? So I don't think it's neurotic, weird, OCD. Like, there's nothing weird about that to me. But to the normal human being who sees me weighing a chicken breast on a scale in the kitchen, they're like, that's kind of fucking weird.
Yeah.
You know? So, like,
abnormal.
Realistically, I'm the odd man out here, right? So how do I work with her on this, right? Like, how do I say, like, hey, I understand that you don't, like, you would love for me to not track all the time or not ask you how many tablespoons of water and everything. So, like, how many meals per week do I need to let you just do your thing for you to feel comfortable, right? And realistically, it was just one. She was like, I just want one meal a week where I can cook whatever I want. You don't ask me any questions. Dope. I can do that. One free meal a week. You know what I mean? And so throughout the week, I'm like, hey, you don't have to tell me every little detail, but just tell me what's for dinner. Like, I will tell you what I want to eat and you can be creative with it, whatever. And we just kind of, like, give or take, you know, because I understand her perspective, how she doesn't want me glued to a food scale, right? And she understands my perspective of, like, this is what I do for a living. And to me, having abs is more important than having, like, cookies or ice cream. Like, I just don't have cravings for that stuff. I'd rather look really fit and feel really fit and be good, you know? So explaining to her why I want to do things for me and her explaining why she likes the things she likes or does the things she does or thinks the way she thinks, and then just understanding each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Meeting her in the middle, and then I think that goes a long way. So even with, like Saturdays, she's like, Saturdays are like family day, right? Like, I'd rather you not train. I'm like, that's not an option. Like, I have to train 6 days a week. Like, I don't have to, but I want to. It means a lot to me. So, like, what do we need to do to figure this out, right? So Saturday is my day to sleep in, we had decided on, and Sunday is her day to sleep in. Saturday, if I decide to go to the gym in the morning instead of sleeping in, that's my choice.
Yep.
You know, like, I would, if I don't set an alarm and I really want to sleep in on a weekend, 9:30 at the longest, I'll wake up. So as long as I'm home by 9:30, there's just no issue because I'm home for the whole day. And then Sunday, I got to wake up early when Blakely wakes up and Shannon can sleep in. So if I want to sacrifice my sleep to train, that's on me. You know what I mean? But that's, like, she's like, I don't want you to train on Saturday. I was like, well, I'm going to train. So what do we need to do here? She's like, well, let's trade sleep-in days. Dope. Let's do it. You know what I mean? So I think that's just how marriage works. It comes down to that. Now, the last thing I will finish with, because I'm not a counselor or anything, so I don't know everything, but the last thing I'll finish with is if your spouse is unwilling to support you no matter what, I think that's where you have to have a pretty firm discussion.
Deep.
You know, if you, and this is the like, if you really loved me card where a lot of people will be like, oh, shut up. Like, you can't throw that card out all the time. But this is a situation where it's like, look, if you really loved me, you would want me to do what makes me happy.
Yeah.
This is what makes me happy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you getting insecure because I'm seeing a transformation, that doesn't make sense.
Nope.
You know, I'm not pressuring you. So ultimately, I think that's the biggest thing. And you know what's like, the sad part is it's usually women changing and men being sour about it, realistically. Because if you look at like most, like if when a female goes on a diet and they want to get lean, they want to get healthy, men's like, do it. Hell yeah. Like, you're going to get fit. You're going to look great. I'll eat whatever. Like, I don't care. Do your thing. You know what I mean? But a lot of times, I'm sorry, it's the opposite of what I was just saying, right? That's how I would be, but also I'm already fit. So I guess that's kind of like not as applicable. But when, the opposite of what I just said, and I'm kind of losing my train of thought, but essentially they're not as supportive as the other side, which I think is sad. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, like, gosh, you should get with it. Just do it.
Totally.
You know?
I think it all comes down to communication and the way you guys approach it before the transformation happens.
Yeah.
But
communication is critical in any relationship, and it's probably also the most difficult and neglected thing.
For sure.
I'll be the first to admit that. Like, I'm not always best at it, but I recognize how fucking important it is.
For sure.
You know? But
all right, cool. We'll go on to the next one. The next one comes from Brittany Pittman. It says, what are your go-to research sites for training and nutrition?
tailoredcoachingmethod.com is the first one. Actually, it's not, because I don't go to my own site to research stuff. But I have been told many times that people will just go to the blog and just search something, which is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
So obviously go there, but I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you already do that. Mass Research Review, in my opinion, is something that every single coach should subscribe to and invest in. It's a paid subscription, so you have to pay and acquire the information that way. But I think it's like $20 a month. I think it's pretty cheap, or you can pay for the year. I think I actually purchased a lifetime membership. Like, I just paid the top dollar and was like, I get access for the rest of my life kind of thing. But Mass Research Review stands for Monthly Application of Strength Sport or Strength Science. I can't remember. Dr. Eric Helms, Dr. Eric Trexler, Greg Nuckols, Dr. Mike Zordos. Just those four guys. They are the research reviewers, and they basically each pick like two papers to review every month. They also do a roundtable, which is really cool because it's almost like a mini podcast. Every single paper they choose has a full written review with graphs, all that stuff. And then they also do an audio that is basically going over it with their colleagues. So like if Greg does a research review on something, he will talk you through it. And then the other guys will kind of chime in and ask questions and pick apart what the study is. And there's always 2 full video presentations that are like an hour long in every month too. So they put a lot into it. It's definitely for the more advanced. That's why I said coaches. I think if you really want to geek out and you want to know like deep dive stuff, some of which isn't even applicable to the Gen Pop. You know, so some of the stuff I'll listen to, I'm like, this is really interesting stuff. I'm not going to apply this to anybody because I don't have any coaches that need to apply this to, you know. But there is I would say more than half of it is very applicable to our population of who we work with. I'll throw Weightology out there. I'm actually not subscribed to Weightology right now, but I have been in the past, and they do a really good job. James Krieger, it's a research review as well. And the main reason I want to give them a shout out is because Brandon Roberts, the PhD chief science officer on our team, is a research reviewer for Weightology. So he does that there. He also does research reviews for our website once a month as well. We pick 2 studies and do that via podcast and blog. But yeah, honestly, Mass is probably the best go-to place that I like. If I think of online, I'll go to JISSN.com as well, the Journal of International Sports Science Nutrition. They update free papers every single week, really. Like, there's fucking thousands of papers on there. The difference there is that you will get the literal paper. So you'll get the abstract, the graphs, the conclusion, the reference points, all those kind of things, which is great, but it's also harder for an average person to read, interpret, and apply.
And
whereas
understand.
And the mass research review is nice because they're like, here's that, but here's how you actually interpret it, because I am a researcher and I understand this better than anybody. And
sure.
I think a lot of people hate to admit that. They'll just read the abstract and they'll like talk about what they saw in the study, and they're incorrect, which is why I tend to like, I look for research reviewers' thoughts on things. Now I just text Brandon and ask his thoughts before I create content on a specific topic, because I think it's important to get an expert's opinion. But that's a good place. And then other than that, honestly, it's just blogs. Like books is my big thing. I'll listen to a lot of podcasts. I love all of Renaissance periodization stuff. They put a lot of good information out. Specifically, like if I'm want to learn more about hypertrophy specifically, usually I'll look at see what Renaissance periodization is doing with their books and ebooks and seminars and webinars, things like YouTube videos. If I want to dig into nutrition, it's honestly always books. Like there's a textbook. Oh, it's on my desk at home. There's a textbook on sport metabolism at home, or like there's sport nutrition right there. Muscle and strength pyramid's always great. Fat loss forever. Like those are all books that you can revisit, you know. But as far as blogs go, and I'm not just saying this, like ours is one of the best when it comes to stuff. I don't know a lot of people who are putting out a lot of written content on deep dive topics like we are. So it's hard for me to even recommend. You know, somebody, I know Andy Morgan used to have a great blog and put out a lot of content, but I don't know if he updates blogs as much as he used to. I feel like most people stopped.
Yeah.
Which I think is a dumb decision to do. But yeah, for any coach listening, I know she's a coach that asks this question. Mass research review is definitely my number one recommendation.
Dope. All right, there you go, Brittany. We got a question coming from Rachel Ray. What are your favorite books for continuing education in nutrition and exercise science space? Need direction on what to read next. Would love your input.
Isn't Rachel Ray somebody famous?
Yeah, it's a cook, I believe.
I think it is a cook.
Yeah, it's either a cook or... Yeah, it is a cook. Rachel Ray. Yep.
Wasn't she on like a talk show too?
No, dude. That was Ricky Lake.
I'm thinking of Regis and Kelly.
Oh, Ricky Lake. Remember that?
Who is that? Who is that?
That's embarrassing.
Who?
We were like in 7th grade. It was like a Maury show. It was like Jerry Springer and Maury like put together as a girl. It was Ricky Lake.
Oh, no, I don't remember.
It was like, you are the father.
I remember Jerry Springer and Maury.
Duh. But Ricky Lake was like a ghetto talk show.
I remember like when we would have half days in high school, I'd come home and
it's always during the
my
day.
dad was always, he would come home for lunch and eat and then go, because he was a salesman, so he'd be driving all the time. He'd stop by home, make a sandwich, eat. Every single time I came home at that hour and he was eating lunch, he was watching Jerry Springer or Maury. What? Just laughing. Like, I never forget that. I was always like, what are you doing? Shit is hilarious. Funny. Okay.
Recommendations.
Recommendation for books. So I kind of just spit off a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm always going to recommend Muscle and Strength Pyramids, Fat Loss Forever. I think the Science and Development of Muscle Hypertrophy by Dr. Brad Schoenfeld is really, really good. But it ultimately kind of depends on what your niche is. You know, if you're just generally looking into nutrition and science and stuff like that, like if you want to go the exercise science and nutrition, metabolism, hormone route, you got to get textbooks.
Yeah.
Again, I always butcher this name because it's really long, but I believe it's nutrition and exercise physiology of nutrition metabolism of exercise sport physiology, something fucking really long and crazy, but
yeah,
it's actually a really good textbook. Not that textbooks are never good, like as a whole. Like if somebody's like, oh, what are you looking forward to reading? I'm never like, oh, a textbook, because they're so dry. But if you want to get into the weeds of like deep dive energy systems, exercise science, what's going on a molecular level, that kind of stuff, sarcomeres, anatomy, you got to get a textbook, right? So that's a good one. Literally just called Sport Nutrition. I can't read the authors from here, but it's literally just Sport Nutrition. It's a Burgundy book. That's a great one. And then if you want to go more towards like the coaching route. Science and development of muscle hypertrophy is like a bridge between textbook and coaching, and then straight coaching, Fat Loss Forever, muscle and strength pyramids, the scientific principles of strength training by Juggernaut's great, the scientific principles of hypertrophy by Renaissance Periodization, Mike Israetel, that one's great. A good blog I should have said on the last one was Stronger by Science. Eric Trexler and Greg Knuckles put together a really good blog.
But they're also mass.
They're also in mass. So it's equal to that level as far as like there's not as many coming out because when mass drops, there's like 8 studies they review, full blogs, full audios. Like it's really.
Was it once a month?
Once a month, yeah. But there's a lot, right? Whereas most people who do a lot of blogging will drop like a blog every week, so that's 4 a month. I don't know if Stronger by Science does that many, but from a advance or experience in scientific level, it's as high caliber as mass. Like it's really deep dive stuff. But those are always going to be my favorite ones. I think like Fat Loss Forever and Muscle and Strength Pyramids are just like, they're the most well-rounded coaching books until me and Brandon start putting our heads together.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not going to say that because those guys I've learned so much from those guys over the years. They're legends in space. But I'm really excited for, and Brandon's really excited. He's hit me up a couple times like, when do we have our book meeting? Yeah. So we actually sit down tomorrow as we're recording this to kind of go over the table of contents. And for those listening, this is just a teaser. I'm not really going to tell you much about it, but we are putting our heads together to come up with a book that's going to be extremely helpful. I almost don't want to call it a textbook though, because I think you have to be like published with like a college level thing to be.
What's it going to be, a story then?
No, it's but that's the thing is like, I don't think you can call it a textbook unless you're like fucking in a college library.
Book of information.
Yeah. It's a nonfiction book. Fiction is fake.
So. All right.
But it's definitely going to be deep dive science. We're going to do hard copy. So it's going to be a literal, like you can order it on Amazon and hold it in your hands, which I'm excited about.
Nice.
I mean, that's just a cool fucking thing. That's always been on my bucket list.
Crazy.
Like, go on Amazon and order my book, you know? But I'm really excited about that because Brandon has the deepest level of science you can get, and I have one of the deepest levels of coaching application you can get because I've been doing it for so long with so many different people that I think if we come together and we each get to share our insights and information on singular topics from 2 different lenses, it's going to be just super powerful.
Yeah.
So we have 2 different books that we're going to be putting together, and those will be definitely needed on everybody's shelf. But until then, Fat Loss Forever, Muscle Strength Pyramids are favorite coaching ones. Science and Development of Muscle Hypertrophy is great. Scientific Principles of Strength Training and Hypertrophy, 2 different books, are great. And then some of those textbooks I said are always fantastic.
Dope.
Yeah.
Cool. Great answer. We got one coming from, this is long. All right, get ready for this one. Danny Cole. I have a job that is fairly labor intensive. On an average day, I'll get anywhere from 10,000 to 25,000 steps a day. I have MyFitnessPal set up so it adjusts my calories each day based on how active I am. My base is set at my BMR, which runs around 1,500 calories on a day. I literally just stay home and chill. As I get my morning workout in and my daily steps and walking, it will adjust my calories up to around 2,400 to 2,800 calories that I should consume if I want to be eating the energy I need. If I want to be eating the energy I need to fuel how many calories I'm burning that day. My goal right now is to gain strength and muscle. I am fairly happy with how I look right now, and I am quite lean naturally. Eating around this 2,400 to 2,800 calorie mark seems to be keeping my weight fairly steady, or has for the last couple of weeks, and that's on me only working out 4 to 5 days a week. Now, my question is this a good approach to adjust my calories based on my daily activity? I work shift work, so I'm away working in a camp for 2 weeks, then home for a week. So adjusting my calories, I think, is necessary for my off week, and also to make sure I'm eating enough for what I am burning during that time. Thoughts?
I think that, I think adjusting your calories based on your activity levels is a good idea for anybody who wants to maintain their weight. Because you are adjusting your calories based on how much you're expending, which is basically another way of saying when I burn more, I'm going to eat a little more. When I burn less, I'm going to eat a little less. But regardless, I'm just fluctuating and maintaining that maintenance calories.
Yeah.
But here's the issue with this. 90% of the people listening to this podcast probably don't want to maintain, right? I mean, let's say 75%. Because hopefully some of you guys are doing this intelligently and listening to us and doing some maintenance phases along the way. But point being is you either want to get leaner or you want to get bigger. In his case, he wants to get bigger. He wants to build muscle, get stronger, right? Well, in order to get bigger, stronger, more muscle, you can't eat at maintenance because what does maintenance do?
Nothing.
Keeps you the same. Exactly. So if you want to lose weight, you got to eat less than you're burning, right? So my point with this is if I wanted to, like in both situations, I'll answer his specifically next, but in the fat loss scenario, if I want to lose weight, I need to figure out what the bottom range is and then just stay there every day. So if his maintenance is between 24 to 2,800, like let's say if he's moving a lot and it's 2,800, if he's moving just his average amount, it's 2,400, and he wanted to lose weight and body fat, I would say, hey, eat 2,400 every single day. There's going to be some days you're hungrier than others because you're moving more. But guess what? That's part of dieting. Your goal is fat loss. So those days where you're eating less and still moving a ton, we're going to optimize our progress because we're burning more calories. That's why you feel that way. So that's a good thing. It's not bad, right? Now, in his situation, because he wants to gain, I'd say, hey, that higher end, that 2,800 that you don't always burn that much, but you do on some days when you're really active, eat that every single day. The days where you don't burn that much, you're going to be in a 400 calorie surplus, which by the end of the week, if it's half the week, you're still only in, 1,000 calorie surplus per week, which isn't that crazy if you're really trying to put on size. So the easiest way for me to say this is basically if you're trying to gain, take the top end range, stay there. If you're trying to lose, take the bottom end range, stay there. Don't fluctuate your calories. If you're really set on maintaining your weight, you can fluctuate your calories. But what you could also do is go, okay, I need to stay at either 24 or 2,800 depending on my days. 2,600 is right between that. I'm trying to maintain. I'm just going to stay there all week. Because at the end of the week, your weekly caloric intake is going to be whatever it was anyway if you fluctuate or if you just keep it right in the middle. Yeah. And keeping it right in the middle is way easier to sustainably adhere to, period.
Doesn't fluctuate as much.
And then you don't have to change your diet, right? Imagine if you woke up today and you're like, oh, it's going to be a busy day at work, like I'm going to burn more, and then you don't move as much. You're like, oh, shit, I overshot my calories. Now I got to adjust tomorrow. Or you're like, I'm just going to eat normal, and then you go to work and you step 25,000 steps today, and you came home, and you're like, fuck, I got to eat an extra 500 calories because I move so much. It's just like annoying, right? So like go in the middle and just stay there every day. By the end of the week, it's going to be the same as if you had some high days, some low days, right? It's why carb cycling can be advantageous in certain scenarios, but if somebody just hypothetically or generically said, is carb cycling good, which is calorie cycling, for fat loss, I would say it can be if it helps you adhere, but if your weekly caloric intake is the same at the end of the week, it doesn't matter if you cycle calories or not. As long as your weekly average is there, that's all that matters. So I wouldn't do it this way, man. If you're trying to gain size, gain muscle, I think the best idea is to go to the higher end of that calorie range and just stay there every single day. Some days you're going to be eating higher than you're burning or whatever, but that's okay. That's going to put you in a little bit of surplus, and you need that to gain muscle and build strength. So own it, take it. It's not a bad thing. And I always think too, like from a fat loss perspective, and I guess it could go from a gaining perspective too, it kind of builds an unhealthy relationship with food, because what happens is they'll fluctuate their calories based on their activity level, which we know isn't super accurate anyway. And then they get to a place where they're like, oh shit, I ate too much. Well, I can just increase my activity level. Or I want to eat something special for dinner tonight, so I'm just going to fucking run on the treadmill for 2 hours to burn enough calories to earn that. And then now we have this relationship with food that it's basically like punishment and reward, right? I punish myself with cardio because I ate too much, or I reward myself with food because I did a bunch of extra cardio. It's not a healthy thing. Yeah. Like find balance in the middle and just go that route.
Totally.
And stop being, like, the biggest thing too is people got to stop being in a rush.
Yeah.
If you're not in a rush to get to your goal, it's much easier to create balance, and that's going to be healthier.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want quick, easy, and fast fat loss? So fast that it'll happen in 30 days and maybe all you have to do is take a pill? Well, you're shit out of luck, because it's not going to happen. It takes hard work and patience, which is one of the reasons why I love Legion Supplements. They are open and honest about their marketing, and on the front page, they tell you that supplements don't overrule training and nutrition, but they do supplement a good diet and a good training program. So if your training's dialed in, your nutrition is on point, and you want to get that upper edge and take things to the next level to get the best results possible for your body and performance, Check out Legion and save 20% today by heading to buylegion.com/boomboom. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Good. All right. I hope that helped Danny. We got one coming from Caitlin Flanagan. I've recently progressed from undereating / chronic dieting state for about 9 months, around 1,300 calories, to reverse up to a maintenance state. Ended up at 1,900 calories, although I believe my true maintenance is around 2,200 to 2,400 calories. This is also with a high activity level. I am really interested in the G-Flux topic, or eat more, do more. What is the best way to periodize my nutrition to get to that G-Flux state? I still have a similar target of fat loss, but want to be cognizant of the best approach here, which is to continue my progression to a true maintenance phase before cutting again.
Okay, so how do you periodize G-Flux, essentially? Part of it is, so there's a very like ultra specific and like kind of getting into the weeds answer for this, and then there's a very like simple answer for this. The very simple answer is everything is periodization if you're planning it. So if you're planning on increasing calories and increasing your training to create G-Flux, that is periodization, because periodization is just having a plan. So even if you plan to increase calories, increase activity, and you optimize this whole G-Flux idea, and then you just stay there, you periodize to get there, and then you just maintain that, right? And even maintaining that, if you're planning your macros to be a certain way and you're planning your training to be a certain way, you're periodizing, right? So the simple answer is you're already doing it. Don't worry about it. The complicated answer is you kind of don't, because if your goal is G-Flux, and this is the type of person I recommend it for, you get to there and you stop, right? So scientific periodization, or like the nitty-gritty definition people like to hear, is like you're going through phases, right? So like we're going to go into a fat loss phase, and then a reverse phase, and then a maintenance phase, and then we're going to go into a lean gaining phase with mini cut phases along the way. Like there's all these different transitions. Like that's periodization, right? And that is like, we do that with some people, but there's also people where periodization is much more along the lines of like, hey, we're just going to get you to this one place and then you're just going to stay there, right? Because for some people, like she said, like I'm already generally lean, but I want to get a little bit leaner. I might not encourage you to go through an aggressive cut again. Like there's people who are lean, but they're like, I would like to be a little bit leaner, but I also really love training hard. I want to have some muscle on me. I'm like, okay, well, why don't we stop doing these like hard cuts, and we'll get you to like your lean place that you're at right now, and then slowly reverse diet. While reversing, we are increasing activity. But I only recommend doing this if you are coming from a place that is lean and your biofeedback is good. Because if you do a cut first and your biofeedback is shitty at the end of the cut, like your hormones, your metabolism, your sleep, your stress levels, all that kind of stuff, you're lethargic, you can't reverse super slowly, because you're going to be like maintaining those negative symptoms while staying lean and increasing calories, and then the calories don't do anything for you. For those people, I'm like, hey, you got to put on a little bit of fat. So I think the best route to take, and this has happened with many clients, this has happened with CJ, like I'm crossing my fingers to see if this will happen to me, but who knows if it actually will, is you go through a cut, just like I did. I got leaner. I'm happy with how lean I am, but I definitely could be leaner, and I would love to be leaner, but I'm not like unsatisfied with where I got. From this place, my biofeedback is great. I'm sleeping good. My energy in the gym is good. Like I can't say that the diet really got to me, because it didn't negatively impact me much, like from a physiological perspective. So I'd be safe to go really, really slow with my reverse diet, like slower than I typically would like someone to do, and just slowly increase activity levels while I do that. That would optimize G-Flux, right? I'd be increasing calories while increasing expenditure, hoping to build muscle and burn more fat along the way. Potentially possible. I think the more advanced you get, the less likely it is possible. It's why I don't necessarily think that it will happen for me. And I think it 100%, I know I saw it happen to CJ, for example, and some other clients who haven't been training for years and years. They're dieting for years and years. They're relatively new to this whole thing. So it's easier for them to do that. But I think that's a good route. And those are the people I usually use G-Flux with, is like, let's periodize a fat loss phase. So your periodization there is going for a long-term fat loss phase with diet breaks periodized in along the way to get you to a place that is lean but still healthy. From there, your periodization plan is a slow reverse diet while increasing volume, intensity, steps, your conditioning, whatever it may be, without making it miserable. Like you don't want to, like, I'm going to do G-Flux and spend 3 hours a day in the gym, and now you're just miserable because you're training all the fucking time, but you can eat more food. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. Oxymoron.
It's 100% an oxymoron, but people do it, right?
Yeah.
So, but we get there, and then what we do is we slowly increase calories, slowly increase training until we get to a point that you're eating a good amount of food, you're training to your maximum output, and then you just stay there. So the periodization plan from there on, which is kind of where you're at now, I think you already reversed, you're maintaining a good lean physique, but you'd like to get a little bit leaner. Do more activity to match how much you're eating, and then just stay there for a really long time, like 6 to 12 months, and just see what happens.
Yeah.
You might recomp. You might burn fat very slowly. You might build muscle and not lose any fat, but because you built muscle and maintain your body fat percentage, you look leaner. And there's even, I even see people, like, and this is where, like, you have to be careful. G-Flux, it doesn't always work. I think it's a great strategy for somebody who needs a reverse diet or who has already reversed diet or is maintaining a lean physique but wants to get super lean. But I think there is also people that talk about eat more, move more that are on social media, like influencers and stuff like that are super lean. And they talk about eating more. And it's like, and we know this, like just on the days that we film content, I'm like exhausted after my training session because I'm like, well, we shot content for an hour. So I was doing a bunch of different exercise, full body, and then I trained, right? And we don't film as much exercise content as some of these influencers do. So these people that are filming shit all day for their membership site or their YouTube or their Instagram or whatever it may be, and then they're doing their 6-day-a-week training program, and they're telling you to eat more, move more. Nobody can move as much as you do, man.
Yeah.
Like you're doing so much shit.
Yeah.
Of course you're really lean and can eat a ton of food. But the principle is there, and you can use some of it if you're in the right position. But there's also times where somebody can't afford to do more, or it's going to bang up their joints or whatever it is. And it's like you just need a deficit and you just need to lose fat. That's why it's completely individual. But
Totally.
but yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it. I think that's the best way to periodize it, and that's who should be kind of thinking about using it.
For sure. All right, there you go, Caitlin. All right, we got a couple more here. One from Vera Bondaruk. Hey guys, first of all, I love your podcast and most of all your Q&As. So here I am. I have been training for the past 18 years. I am a female, 34 years old, and my question is, how should a woman train in PMS? I have an idea and heard some stuff, of course, but I am really curious on your thoughts around this topic. Cheers and hugs from Russia. That's dope.
That is dope.
Love you guys.
That's across the fucking world.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Good observation.
What's her name?
Vera, I'm guessing.
Vera. Well, thank you, Vera, for listening, supporting the podcast, all the way from Russia. Super fucking cool. That's one place that I would love to go. It's like I have like a list of like 10 countries that I would love to go, but I'm also afraid to fly that far.
Yeah.
So even Europe, man, it kind of scares me being on a plane for 12 plus hours.
What?
I don't know why. It freaks me out, especially going overseas. I watched Lost too many times. It scares me. Have you seen Lost?
No.
Oh my God, dude. Probably one of the top 3 TV shows of all time.
Yeah.
So good. Seen it twice. Shannon won't watch it a third time. But, okay. So, I think with this, like, I have 2 opinions on it. I have one opinion that says, you've been lifting for 18 years, you're advanced, you're clearly into this shit, and you have every reason to dig into the weeds and do this. The other part of me goes, don't even worry about it, because people get sucked into this too much, and it doesn't make that much of a difference. If you listen to your body, I think you're going to be totally fine. There's been tons of clients that I've worked with that we figure out when their highest point of fatigue is, because the female's cycle actually is nonstop.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a luteal cycle, a follicular cycle, ovulation cycle. There's different phases, right? I'm sorry, not cycles, phases. Luteal phase, follicular phase, ovulation phase. But it's 30 days. You know what I mean? So it's like you have like basically the pre, the during, and the post, and they're constantly going. So usually there's people who have like a certain point in time during those phases and that cycles that is the highest fatigue point. Like that's when they're the most drained. That's when they're the most lethargic. Plan your deloads during that time. If you do that, you're doing plenty to adequately perform. And then the other side of it is just listen to your body, right? I know that I can't remember off the top of my head what phase it is because this isn't my specialty. But there's a lot of really good books and content on this by like female strength coaches and stuff, but it's not my forte, obviously. But there is a point before the actual menstrual cycle starts that you actually have a higher insulin sensitivity due to estrogen levels, and you can actually train harder. So basically, your body is utilizing glucose at a more efficient rate. Glucose is the primary fuel for training. So there's some people that will encourage higher intensities, higher loads, like go hard during that premenstrual cycle phase because your body's primed for it. Then you go into a phase that requires less glucose because you're not as insulin sensitive, and you might be more fatigued. So let's do more aerobic work, or let's do more deload style training, and then rinse and repeat, right? So if you look at that, it would almost say like right after your menstrual cycle is done, what you could do is start a new program. So week 1, it's hard because it's new, right? Like I'm sore from Monday because it's new, right? Not because the intensity was super high because it was week 1. In fact, that's the lowest intensity week of the 4 weeks I'll be in this phase, this block, right? But I'm building. It's hard. Week 2, I add on top of that, so it starts to get a little bit harder. Week 3, I'm like really maximizing everything. That's like the 3rd week. I'm used to the program. I'm hitting my highest numbers of the program. That would be the premenstrual cycle week, and then you go into the deload, which you could place on the actual menstrual cycle where you have the highest fatigue and the least glucose utilization for training. But if you look at that and you match it up to your cycle, perfect. But also, it's just like a normal training block.
Totally.
So if you match up the high fatigue point of your cycle with your deload, you kind of naturally do linear periodization and progression as a whole. So what I've done in the past is I've always kind of just said, like, for some clients, it just doesn't affect them, and we don't even have to worry about it. Some clients, it does affect them, and they have like really strong and hard periods. So for them, it's like, hey, let's match up your deload with it, and then we're just going to program this like a normal 4-week block in a linear periodization style, and we're just going to rinse and repeat because it fucking works, you know? So you don't even have to worry about it. You just have to know when those phases are for the initial plan, so you know when to program in the deloads. Because for a guy, I don't have to consider that. So if somebody starts with me and I know that next week is actually that week, well, we're going to do one hard week and go right into a deload. That's not very typical for a training relationship with somebody. But for a male, it's like, all right, well, your deload's 4th week, no matter what. So we're just going to start and we're going to go until 4 weeks is up because you don't have anything to worry about until then. But I also want people to know, like, a few things. Number one, to round this question off, number one, I am not the go-to guy for menstrual cycle-based training. Like, I'm just not. Like, that's just not my thing. Number 2, I think a lot of people overcomplicate it. They overthink this whole thing. I don't think a lot of people need to worry about it. They overanalyze the shit out of it. I don't think you need to as much. And again, certain people it affects more, and certain people are just into it. I have clients that track all of their like menstrual cycle stuff on their phone, and then it gives me more information, but because they're into that and they feel it more, and it works. Great. If it works and you can optimize it, awesome. And I think the more advanced you get in training, the heavier you're lifting, the more of an athlete you are, the more you should probably consider this stuff. But for 90% or more of my clientele that I've worked with over the last 10 years, I literally don't even implement anything around it besides a deload. Yeah. That's it. Like, that's as far as I take it.
What about biofeedback? It's like listening to your body.
It really is just listening to your body, because, if somebody notices at a different point of that phase, like even with diet breaks, when you're dieting, certain phases, maybe you have more cravings, maybe you're more hungry, maybe you're not as hungry. We can manipulate the diet to make, like if we're doing like a cyclical diet where we have some diet breaks, some deficit weeks, we can match that up to your cycle and it'll work. And I have done that too. But again, a lot of people don't need to worry about it as much as people make it seem. It's not a thing, so you can look into it. I just know for myself, like, I've just worked with so many people, and I haven't had to focus on this as much as I've seen people focus on it in the last, 2 years. Yeah. Like, it's become this, really hot topic that people want to dive into, and it's just, it makes sense, and there is science behind it, but I just have never had to really dive into it that much, which to me says something, because I've gotten a lot of great results with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think listening to your body and then taking a deload on that week, I think is great. If you have more sensitive hormones and more hard menstrual cycles, then dig into it. There's a lot of good blogs and podcasts, stuff like that on this topic.
For sure. I think we have a couple blog or two on it.
Yep. We have one called Women's Health. I think we have one just about your period.
Yeah.
Literally. So.
Cool. All right. Let's move on.
We'll link those in the show notes or something.
Yep.
So they can see that.
All right. Next one comes from Christina Lyron. says, how would one achieve body recomp at maintenance?
Similar to what I talked about with the G-Flux theory. If I had somebody that wanted to recomp, and it was just like, all right, you're like, I'm an artist, paint, it's a blank canvas, paint whatever you want, do whatever you want with this person, and they're at maintenance and they want to recomp. My first thing would be this: where is your starting body composition? Because that completely changes what I would do with anybody, right? Like, if you come to me and you're like, I want to recomp, but you also have 20 pounds to lose, of course you want to recomp, but I'm not going to focus on recomp. I'm going to focus on fat loss and just trying to build muscle through training in the process. And you'll probably build some, if not just maintain your muscle. And when you get lean enough, you'll see the muscle you already had and you'll look like you recomped, but really you already had the muscle, right? Whereas if somebody comes to me and they're like, oh, I want to recomp, and they're like skin and bones, I'm like, no, like, we're going to surplus and you're going to put on some size, because that's going to make you look recomp. It's just that you think get leaner because you see lean people with muscle, but like, you need to build muscle first, you know, or you need to lose fat first. But somebody comes to me and they're healthy, lean, but they could be leaner, could be bigger, and they want to recomp. I'm gonna keep them at maintenance. In fact, I'm gonna start at maintenance. I'm gonna increase calories by like 5 to 10% into a surplus. But right after I do that, I'm gonna match that surplus with more activity or more volume or more training, conditioning steps, whatever it is. Basically, G-Flux, right? That same idea of like, we're going to start at maintenance, but we're going to eat a little bit more and do a little bit more, but just a little bit. Your protein's going to be set at probably 1.1 to 1.2 grams per pound, so a little bit above body weight. Your fats are probably going to be at like 0.3 grams per pound, which is pretty low, but it's on the safe side of low. And then I'm going to give you as many carbs as I can. I'm probably going to give you a carbohydrate drink during your training, so 20 to 30 grams of highly branched cyclic dextrin and maybe some essential amino acids. There's limited research on this, but I'm still a big fan of it. There has been research that showed more muscle growth in a cross-sectional area of people's quads when they had this supplement because, well, we don't know exactly why, but I believe it's because of cortisol mitigation. It's one of the things they saw is that it helped manage cortisol levels better. If we manage cortisol levels better, we stay in a more anabolic state and we potentially recover better, which is probably going to lead to more muscle growth. So I'd probably add that kind of supplement in. They'd definitely be taking 5 grams of creatine monohydrate per day. I'd really emphasize 8 to 9 hours of sleep per night, which is hard for a lot of people to get, but I'd be really pushing for 8 to 9 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
I don't get that, but if somebody was like, again, blank canvas, I'm serious, I want to recomp, I'll do whatever you say. You're getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night. You're having a shake during your training. You're eating just above maintenance, and you're doing more activity than you're doing right now. You'd probably be on depends what training they were doing first, but I'd probably put them on a 5-day training split with 1 day of hard conditioning and 1 day of active recovery. So this would look like upper, lower, aerobic conditioning that changes every couple weeks, and then push-pull legs. So upper, lower conditioning, push-pull legs. Sunday would be an active recovery day, so they'd be doing soft tissue work, mobility, and then like
a walk.
Throw a weight vest on and walk for 30 to 40 minutes. Ideally, they're living somewhere sunny and they can do it outside, but now I'm getting really picky. And that would be the split. The diet would be that way. They'd probably be eating 4 or 5 meals a day. 90% would be really whole food, micronutrient-dense foods. 10% could be whatever the hell they want. That would be it.
Damn.
I mean, it's very specific, you know, but I think that the best way to recomp is really, it's to stay at maintenance, but you're going to push a little bit beyond maintenance, and you're going to push a little bit beyond what you normally do for activity between training and steps and conditioning, and then just get plenty of sleep and then a few supplements. But I think if you did all that, like, there's no way you're not going to recomp. You're putting yourself in a very anabolic state from a recovery standpoint, and you're doing a lot of things that promote fat loss as well.
Yeah.
So I think it would lead to recomp.
Cool.
But you got to be really fucking committed to do all that shit.
Disciplined.
Yeah. I look back at some of the photos of me, man, like when I was like a young trainer, like 23, and I was in the gym, probably right before living with you and / living with you in Renton, like right when we moved in together. Like I was like super lean. Yeah. But some of the pictures, I looked pretty fucking yoked too. Yeah. And I was like, I mean, that's that, like I was getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night. The the majority of my money I spent on like coaching and supplements because I didn't have a lot of responsibilities as a human being.
Yeah.
So it was like, I'm basically going to be on my feet all day. I'm going to train really fucking hard, harder than I'll probably ever be able to train again because I'm young. I'm eating a lot of food, but it's all super high quality, nutrient dense foods. Unbelievably committed, barely ever drink. Like it was just like pretty fucking rigid, you know?
Yeah.
But that's what it took.
Yeah.
That's what it takes to get that way.
You did it.
I did it. And now I like having some drinks. Some beer. I hate that the beer I like is like the highest calories. Like I'll check the calories on the beer I like. Because like, I think I've told you, my dad drinks Bud Light Platinum.
Yeah.
I was like, Dad, stop. Like, you want a Mac and Jacks? Got my Bud Light Platinum. I'm like, first of all, why Platinum?
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Why not just get Bud Light?
Yeah.
Or better, Budweiser, Bud Heavy. Or Coors.
Yeah.
Heavy, not Coors Light, you know.
Coors Original. No.
Yeah.
Definitely Budweiser.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, for you, I don't like either one of them.
Dude.
But, I was drinking
Shame, dude.
Actually had my first Mac and Jacks ever, literally just like a week ago.
Yeah.
Loved it. They never sell it at the store, but I've seen people get it at restaurants in Seattle all the time, and they never.
You don't think they sell Mac and Jacks at the store?
They don't sell the African Amber Ale, the like classic one.
What store do you go to?
Fred Meyer usually.
Oh.
They have, so Mac and Jacks has a bunch of different
Yeah.
types of beer. They have all their IPAs and all that stuff, but they never had the African Ale, which is like the classic one that most people get. It's
Yeah.
like their one they're known for. I don't know why, but they started selling it at Fred Meyer, so we got it. That was great. I had a Fremont Brewery Pilsner. That was great.
Super good. You've been to the Fremont Brewery?
So cool.
Yeah.
Fucking love that place.
Yeah.
I've been there a couple times. It's really dope.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I look up, and then I like lagers a lot. So I always like put it in MyFitnessPal. I'm like, fuck, this is like 3 times as many calories as my dad Bud Light Platinum.
Look at the back of it.
I don't think some of them have calories on it. Some of them don't.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, like if you get like a nice craft bottle,
Yeah.
there's no way they have it.
No, yeah.
But I'll type in vanilla porter or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and it's like 700
Porter.
calories for a fucking.
Goodness. Drinking coffee.
I'll have that for a fucking dinner.
Yeah.
You're not even hungry after you eat that
Yeah.
shit or drink that shit.
Eat the calories.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. We can do one more here. If you ever this comes from Casey Peters. If you ever produced a product or a product line, what would it be? Either personally or with TCM brand or both?
That's a good question. With TCM, I mean, number one, books. We have that already kind of in the works. That's a long process. I don't think
Is that a product line?
I mean, if we do a line of them, you know, because there's going to be, we already have like 2 or 3 ideas, and I'm sure once we write one, we'll be like, oh, it'd be good to write this one. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and we'll probably write multiple. I mean, like, take Renaissance Periodization, for example. They have like 7 books. I'm sure they wrote one that was really needed, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? That'll be within TCM, but I don't even think the first book will launch till like January 2022, to be honest with you. It takes a long time to write a full book that big and get it published. We'll probably do self-publishing, just makes the most sense financially. Yeah. But that'll be with TCM for sure. I could see us doing like either supplements or like exercise equipment, like bands. Like I know some people that own companies that are like, I'm just tired of sending people links to random band companies. I want to make bands my way and put my logo on it. And
so many people get bands.
So many people get bands. So it's like, let's make TCM bands.
Yeah.
We've talked about supplements before because it's like, you know, right now we're super happy with Legion, so I don't have any plans on doing anything like this, but that would be a smart one if the company grew to an extremely large size and we're like, you know what, we want to keep supplements in-house and we'll just make tailored formulations. And it's like everybody, like for our whey, our greens, our multivitamin, our fish oil, or like the fundamentals that we know we will provide to all clients, we just start that, you know? Yeah. So I could see that. And then, of course, like clothing, but I don't think it would really be – like we would do TCM clothing just because we want people rocking our shit. If I was going to create a clothing line or a clothing brand to be like its own business, I would take it outside of TCM. Tailored coaching method shirts are purely just like we want to rock them personally. And if people are fans of our content or their clients and we want to send them shirts, like we're going to make them for them. That's basically how far I see that going. maybe having a storefront with that kind of stuff on it too. But I can't really see. I don't have any like visions of product lines or anything like that, or different businesses, to be honest with you. I've thought about clothing brands many times, but I don't know. Me and Shannon have always joked about owning a wine bar at some point in our life, which I could see happening, to be honest with you. I mean, there's nothing around here.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, even if just in our neighborhood, because they're building a store and all that, Yeah. There's going to be a plaza. Like, that would crush in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
There's, like, going to be 9,000 homes at the end of the development, and 75% of them are parents.
Dude, yeah, and there's a whole new development coming out by that storage unit.
Yeah. I mean, I think Bonnie Lake as a whole would be a good place for it.
There's not a wine bar in Bonnie Lake?
Mm-mm. There's one in Buckley. It's called Farmhouse. Not Farm 12. It's called Farmhouse. And I don't even think it's actually I think it is a wine bar, actually.
Yeah.
And there's one in Enumclaw, but it's like this little tiny hole in the wall, like way out there. Nobody knows about it. And then otherwise, you got to drive to Kent.
Yeah.
Kent Station's the closest one. Reds, and then Renton, Vino's up there. Yeah. I like Vino. Vino's dope.
Yeah.
So we've thought about that, but that wouldn't be like tailored wine bar. You know what I mean? Like, I
should be a completely different entity.
Yeah, I had a really good name for it, actually, and it was something like a pun off of like wine, but also like whining, like you're complaining. And I can't remember what it was, but it was funny, like to the point where even Shannon laughed and was like, "Wow, that's actually really good."
Nice.
And if I get her to say that, I'm like, "Oh shit, that was a good idea."
Yeah.
But I don't think. Yeah, I just can't think of anything. I think like, especially the last like 6 months, I've just been so focused on this that it's like I can't really fathom
Taylor Trainer.
I like. I mean, that's been the biggest focus, right? But even just the coaching company, like to me, I look at it like this. Like I like the idea of being a multi-business owner, and I like the benefits that it comes with. You make more money. You can provide more people with salaries. You affect more people depending on what you're doing. And it's just generally cool. Like, I like business, so it's generally cool to know that, like, I have multiple things going on. And financially speaking, that's smart to not have all your, like, rocks in one bucket kind of thing.
Yep.
But then also you can grow something way bigger if you do put all your rocks in one bucket. So that part of me is like, that would be really cool. The other part of me is like, I can't even, like, I don't want to start something just to start something because I'm so focused on making this the shit. And I would rather just, like, do investments. Like, let me find somebody else who's going to be doing something, and I'll throw in some money in the pot and watch it grow over time, because that's a smart thing to do. But I also don't know much about investments.
Yeah.
So it's like,
there'll come a time.
Yeah, there'll come a time. And I honestly think a wine bar would be the most realistic thing when Blakely's old enough that she's in school and Shannon has enough time to take the lead on that, because I won't have enough time, I don't think. But we love wine.
Yep.
But, yeah.
Dope. There you go, guys. That was the last question for today. Go check out the Taylor Trainer.
TaylorTrainer.net.
Yep. Cool.
That's really the only announcement.
Yep.
You got to check it out. It's the shit.
Yep.
Later.
Deuces.